housekeeping things before we get started. One, we want to welcome Sandra Wilson and Megan Mansfield, who are with us tonight. They're going to provide us a presentation. You've got a copy of it in front of you on the roadmap to the future. We've talked several times about the chamber grant, right, as we affectionately refer to it, as though that's the only grant she has or she works on. It's the chamber grant, right? Right, and so anyway, that we're going to get an update on that, right? And one of the things that we have talked about in quite a bit of detail in the past is it comes out of an old Energy Community Alliance, Energy Community, is Alliance that word? ECA. ECA, yeah. And so it came out of their politics of cleanup, right? Which talks about communities that have successful cleanups and have results at the end when the federal government is through with their action are communities that speak with one voice, right? That have a common vision, and all the different players and parties, your engaged environmental groups, your elected officials, your chambers, your economic development folks, all moving in the same direction, pushing and working together collaboratively, right? All have separate roles and parts to play, but knowing that everybody's moving in the right direction makes a big difference, right? So this is, again, working on continuing that discussion and that collaborative effort, right? So we're thankful for Ms. Sandra and Megan to be here with us. We're going to let them go first on the agenda. As you guys know, family's kind of a big deal, and there is a softball game tonight. You need to make sure when we get to. You're all invited, by the way. So cheer loudly. Other thing that just popped up, we are going to be short on a quorum tonight. We had a recommendation to vote on. We will not have a quorum for a couple of reasons. We got some folks that are traveling.
A couple more that.
And we've got Reese just joined.
Reese joined in. And who is?
Damon.
Okay. That still leaves us short, right? I think it's there.
8, 9.
9 gets us there. Okay, thanks. Sweet. Hey, Reese, how are you, buddy?
Doing good. Sorry I can't be there today.
So Reese, you're taking the class in Knoxville this summer, right?
Yeah, we're doing the power experiences through with Dr. C over on the campus. So I'm in Chattanooga right now.
Okay, awesome. Outstanding. So one of our young folks out and broadening his mind as he gets ready to prepare. So thanks for being with us, buddy. I know that's a lot. We did just hear that Rodney Hill will not be with us tonight. His mother has had some medical complications, stroke. So he has taken off to Louisiana to be with her. Obviously, the right choice. But if you'll keep Rodney in your thoughts and prayers as we go through. Cool. So we'll be able to have the discussion on the recommendation. We'll let Sandra and Megan go first, and then we'll kind of go about the business of the board. Does that sound good? All right. Don, if you're ready, we'll drop gavel, do introductions, and roll.
Julie, ready?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Call this meeting of the May 16th, 2024 Citizens Advisory Board meeting to order. First order of business tonight is to go around and introduce all of the people that are here tonight. We'll start over on my left with his mouth full of food, probably.
Good now. Clint Combs, Captain. Byron Wessel, Captain.
Gabe Brewer, Cap. Brandon Johnson, Cap, Vice Chair.
Billy Bob, Chair.
Don Barger, CAD, Chair.
Full River Mutual Partnership.
Megan Mansfield, BSW Engineering.
Sandra Wilson with the Paducah Chamber.
Summer Smiley, Kentucky Division, or Department of Environmental Protection.
April Lyde, DOE. Bud Smith, DOE.
Eric Roberts, support staff.
Amy Wiggins,
Mary Evans, Kentucky Department of Environmental Protection.
Zach Ware, KV
Kelly Osbrooks with Alley Field. Sweet. All right, we have a handful of folks online. Mr. Ben Stennett, how are you, Ben?
Hey, doing great. Got 2 junior cab members in the car with me. So awesome.
Yeah. I like it. Recruiting. Like it. Well done. We have Bailey Gallagher with environmental at the Kentucky Department of Energy and the Environment, right? Correct?
Yes, that is right.
Hey, Bailey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
All right, we've talked to Reese. Thanks for joining us. We have Julie Galloway's with us in Portsmouth. She's recording and posting this to YouTube. April Webb, also with the Commonwealth. April, how are you?
Good, how are you all?
Good. Got you on camera this week. I like it. And then we have Victor Weeks with US EPA. Hey, Victor.
Hello, thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else online that we've missed? Hey, Don.
You want to, at this point, jump down to their program
Let's
before
do
we
that.
get comments from Megan and all that? So this came, excuse me, Megan? This is for Sandra. I don't know who's going to talk first. You're on.
All right, well, great. Thank you all for inviting us to be here today. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Eric, for your comments. You wrote half of my speech when you were talking about that at the beginning. But I am Sandra Wilson. I'm the president and CEO of the Paducah Area Chamber of Commerce, and we were the applicant for the grant with the Department of Energy to conduct a study, a reindustrialization study at the Paducah DOE site. And we awarded that grant to Bacon Farmer Workman and Megan Mansfield, who is a project manager for BFW, is the program manager for that reindustrialization study. And we're thrilled also to have with us today Myrna Redfield, the president and CEO and program manager of Four Rivers Nuclear Partnership, the DNR contractor at the DOE site, and we are working very closely with them on a lot of our study as well. So our goal really is to keep you up to date. And if we should have been here sooner, please accept my apologies for not having done that. But we're checking it off now, and we'll be back anytime that you need an update, and certainly before we complete the study. But I just wanted to share with you a little bit. I know most of you are familiar with the Paducah Chamber. You've been through some of our programs. Of course, Fran Johnson worked with us for many years and led our advocacy efforts. So you're familiar with who we are, but we really strive to be that voice and a united voice for the Chamber and for the business community. And advocacy is really critical to who we are and what we do. And so that's why, we know that advocating on behalf of the business community on a local, state, and federal level is critical for our community. And the Chamber shows up, we know that. And that's been our motto and for years, is that we will be the one that's going to be known for showing up, not for being absent. So it's very important. We see that every day for our presence in Frankfurt, our presence in DC, and all of the relationships that we've built through the years with our elected officials and with their staff and administration. We coordinate the annual trip to Frankfurt. We coordinate the annual trip to DC, and I can assure you that when we roll out in Frankfurt with a busload of 65 people, when we show up in Washington, D.C. with 65 people, people are really overwhelmed. They can't believe that we could bring that many from a community this size. And we are beginning to plan what will be our 21st trip to D.C. We just had our 20th trip last September. We've built relationships through the years. When we go to D.C., we meet with Ike White. We have met with Secretary Perry. We met with Secretary Ernie Moniz before, and boy, I'm still sure hoping to get a meeting with Secretary Granholm at some point when we're up there. But we have been the advocacy organizations that led the efforts primarily in the past for extending longer-term contracts in this area with our contractors at the site. We knew the value of them having a longer-term contract than a 3-year. So we're thrilled. FRNP is now in their third part of a 10-year contract. And we do that with all of our contractors, encouraging DOE to extend those. We've been the one pushing for additional funding, and we've been very successful the past several years of getting a $30 million plus up, and last year a $46 million plus up. We aren't bashful to ask, and Senator McConnell will say that every time we're up there, that Sandra is not bashful to ask. But he also compliments our community on being united and really working together. So the Department of Energy, the Paducah Gaseous Diffusion Plant has had a big impact on our community for many years. You guys know that because you lived that by being on the Citizens Advisory Board. And this was our, several years ago, we were only the 5th community in the country to be asked to have a permanent wall display in the Forstall building at DOE in Washington, D.C. So this is some of us, we were up there in March of this year for a small group meeting. But we're very proud of that display, and I hope someday that we can have a duplicate one here in Paducah that it gives the full history of the site, and we could probably add another panel to it by the time we get it. The chamber saw the need. We really wanted to have a reindustrialization study going on for the DOE side. We know that they're going to be planning up for years, but we can't wait till then to plan for the future. And so we applied for that grant. We're very fortunate to have been awarded that in June of last year. We awarded that contract then, subcontract to Speck and Farmer Workman, and they have been leading the reindustrialization study for us. We know that we can't wait, and so it's really time to begin the availability to identify the land that can be transferred back to the community, to look at the infrastructure, to look at the workforce, and to look at the economic development project prospects. And we do refer to this as our roadmap for the future. It will provide a better understanding for the future plans and goals for reindustrialization at the site. And VFW partnered with Geosyntax. Some of you may have heard of them. They're out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and they've done a lot of work at the Oak Ridge site. So we're really thrilled to have them joining us with that. You know, there's about 2,800 acres that we feel like could be considered for potential development at the site of the 3,600 acres out there. I want to assure you that we're working very closely with the Greater Paducah Economic Development Organization. They're the ones that will do the recruiting for prospects there. And then we're also working with the PACRO board. Part of our grant request was to identify land to be transferred. And I want to say that we are thrilled. If you saw the news last night and today, we finally got the first letter submitted. This is the first request made to the Department of Energy for land to be transferred back here. So it's a multi-year process. We know that it's not going to happen overnight. They also know I'm very impatient, and we're hoping that it will happen before our study's over. I doubt that that's the case, but I'm just going to keep pushing for that anyway, because our study will end sometime in 2025. That was a big part of it, but that we had identified a lot of areas that the land goes to the community reuse organization. But as our community was looking at all that, we decided that the Paducah-McCracken County Industrial Development Authority was the best route for our local community. They're a they are part of land holdings. That's what they do. They can do bonding. They can do a lot of different things that PACRO couldn't do. So that's who submitted the formal request yesterday, was the Paducah-McCracken County Industrial Development Authority under the guidance of CRO, with full support of the CRO as part of our study, and with GPED and the blessing of the city and the county. Nuclear is a big part of what will be looking to for the site. It's, having long been an advocate of nuclear, we worked very closely with the state Senate. Bob Leeper worked on it for many years. Danny Carroll was able to finally get the lifting of the nuclear moratorium in Kentucky lifted a couple of years ago. So our community is very familiar with nuclear. You mentioned the Energy Communities Alliance. We are very much aligned with them. This is a picture of when ECA brought their new nuclear conference to Paducah last May. I think several of you attended that. We still get a lot of recognition for that. They loved being here. We just got back from Washington, the state of Washington. Megan and I, along with Bruce and Judge Clymer, spent last week out there at the Hanover site, seeing it, and at a new nuclear conference there. So we came back with a lot of new ideas for our study, a lot of prospects for economic development, and really enjoyed that time with other people that are of like mind. Senator Danny Carroll was also out there as a speaker. He was on a panel about state support for nuclear specifically, because he's been leading that charge in Kentucky. And, as you know, the General Assembly just recently passed a new bill that will establish the Kentucky Nuclear Energy Development Authority. So we're very thrilled that we'll get to work with them. But back to our reindustrialization study, it's really being conducted in multiple phases. We awarded the contract last September to VFW. We hired Joe Tarantino, who is a contract employee, working with the chamber to be a liaison with us and the VFW on the study, and an advisor for us. And if you know about a DOE grant, you have to cross every T and dot every I and make sure that you're fulfilling everything that you're supposed to fulfilling, and that you're spending the money in the way that you're supposed to. So we have all of that hopefully under control. We've been to Portsmouth since we got the grant, and to work with them and to see their site. They're 10 to 15 years ahead of us. So we were able to listen to them about the best practices that they've had, what they did there that's working well. And we are doing a lot of that here. We're in a different category than Fort Smith, a different site in different ways, but we are following what we could. In March, we went to DC and was talked to our members of Congress about the study. On the side, the Chamber also does a lot of advocacy work, so we talked to them about that. But it was also the first time we had met with EPA on behalf of our community. And so DOE helped set that up for us, and it was a really good meeting to begin the process. Since then, we've met with Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife, and we've had a lot of other meetings. So we are trying to get the word out about the reindustrialization study and how important we think it is for our community. So the second phase of our study is underway now, and the last phase will wrap up in 2025 with the release of the final roadmap with recommendations, plans, and action items. But that would just be the completion of the roadmap. That won't be the completion of moving forward in the community. So we will be definitely making sure that that happens in the future. This is our team working on the project, and on behalf of the Chamber, I'm working on it as a program director. And then we have Joe Tarantino again, as I said. Joe retired from the site after many years there. He was also very active with the Chamber, so he knew us and he knew the site, and it's been a great team to have him on there with us. So, and Megan had worked out at the site, so it was just a perfect match for her to come on board and to bring BFW and to have the teaming partner Geosyntec to really get into the depths of the study. I'll turn that over to you now, Megan.
Thank you. If you guys have any questions as I go, please feel free to interrupt me and make this interactive. It's a lot of information. I'm glad you guys have it for me to look at. Stephanie Fountain is presented above, and that is my co-program manager from Geosyntec. She's also worked at the site, still actively works at the site today in the environmental area mainly. We have Kathy Hickey and Robert Brown as well. Kathy is from Oak Ridge in the Knoxville, Tennessee area, and implemented the reindustrialization for the Oak Ridge site. Robert Brown is coined the author of reindustrialization, if you will. He started the Oak Ridge process, is known throughout the industry for the reindustrialization guidance. So I called him the A+B. Robert got it started, Kathy implemented it. And then lastly, we have Mark Wortman, who's the project advisor for BFW. So getting into the foundation of the roadmap, we have 4 main areas of focus: the land transfer, which Sandra mentioned earlier, the infrastructure evaluation side, site strategy and communications, and then economic development and workforce. So those are our 4 main areas of focus. The land transfer includes review of property. Where did the community want to request first? That was a big discussion point with our community partners. Sandra mentioned GPED, IDA, PACRO, and of course the Chamber. And then the land transfer process in itself is pretty interesting and fun. That is the 10 CFR 770 process. So what the letter did yesterday was start that process. FRMP and Department of Energy together have already launched the due diligence portion of that. Obviously, the land can't be released to the community until thorough research on the environmental end has been completed. And so that is where the request is right now for that first parcel, which I'll get into in a little bit. But basically, the transfer process is a 2 to 3, and I know people from EPA are in the room and on the call, and some of you all are familiar with the way Portsmouth and Oak Ridge have transferred property. It'll follow similar suit. So we're excited that it got started. You're going to hear us mention that first land transfer request a lot, probably during this presentation. Infrastructure evaluation. So I like to say I could spend all day talking about the infrastructure side of things because it's a significant area of focus for us. During phase 1 of the study, we really looked at what utilities were available, if any, from the plant. Also the public utilities that are in the vicinity, and that's water, sewer, communications, roads, all the infrastructure that would be needed to reindustrialize the site is what we looked at for phase 1. Now, today in phase 2, we're looking and partnering with the utilities to say, what is it that you need? So if we have industrial development that occurs there tomorrow, really, what are the flows? What are the technical aspects of that? that we really need to put in place so that we can reindustrialize this site, and also in conjunction with the triple rail site that's just down the road. Site strategy and communications. What is the vision of reindustrialization? So is it a park? Is it multiple parks? Oak Ridge has several parks. They have a heritage park, and then one that's more based on the future. Words such as innovation, energy. Where do we want the vision of the site to go? Branding for the future, and then tangibly developing a website that complements all of that, so that we can support public engagement and outreach that will be occurring as a part of the study and continue on really long after the study is complete. The economic and workforce development. Who will be the users of the site? Sandra mentioned that we went to ECA last week. We have had a lot of interaction with the clean energy industry, the nuclear energy industry, a lot of interest just because we're doing this study. We haven't even had the first land transfer request occur yet, and there's already relationships being established, which honestly makes me really excited for the future. But it's a matter of, do we think nuclear? Do we think broader? And I think that those are all the economic development questions that have to occur as a part of this study. And then obviously if economic development occurs, workforce has to be there, right? So we're looking at the workforce training, educational programs that need to be implemented. Oak Ridge, for example, has a 2-year degree associated with some of the technology that has come into their site for reindustrialization. So as we hone in on the economic development side, what can we do to prepare the workforce starting as early as middle school? We have the Innovation Hub here. We have Murray just, I think, built a complimentary innovation center for their younger students. So being able to implement some of those programs. Yesterday, we were talking about the fact that civil engineering, for example, that's what I am, so I can speak to it, has a senior design course. How can we get maybe their project to be influenced or be a part of the plan? So putting a bridge back in, those type of things, being able to incorporate really the site into the education in this area. So what we've done to date so far, Sandra mentioned a lot of the team's progress earlier. We held a stakeholder meeting with the partnering agencies that I call the community partners on October 31st. There's a lot of prep work that occurred before that date, but that was really just to introduce the study on a very high level. We were just getting started. A few of us went to the porch trip from the team, and then a few community leaders for a dual purpose, to see the on-site waste disposal facility that they have and also look at their reindustrialization efforts. For me, that was an aha moment from being an engineer, being able to see the on-site waste disposal facility and the fact that all of it balances out there. That just could go on for days. It's pretty cool. But they had reindustrialization occurring, and there's several parcels in on their transfer process, I should say, and they're starting to see economic development come into the area. And so I think for me, being able to see both of those run parallel, a responsible cleanup mission occurring with new industrial development, and it was clear that the port's message is for the future. So while that's occurring, they are certainly positioning for the future of their community, and that's what we saw at Ports. Sandra has spoken at the Waste Management Symposia on several panels regarding this study. We held a quarterly stakeholder meeting that involved the Paducah Fort Smith Project Office, mainly centered around land transfer and seeking guidance from the Department of Energy to make sure we, in our best effort, got that letter right the first time. We talked to Kentucky Fish and Wildlife. Obviously, they're a partner at the site and a very important one for us to maintain those relationships, and the Cabinet for Economic Development as well. And then I think it's important to highlight DOE's initiative in this. They've already started the due diligence for the first land transfer area. And then they're also doing a site-wide seismic study. This is really important for economic development because you all know that we're right on the New Madrid fault line. I can tell you that without this study, that we have to be very conservative on our design and the implementations that occur out there. With this seismic study, we're hoping to get more specified data, and we're allowed to customize our designs to that seismic study. And that allows for economic development to be able to understand the area much better. Public outreach, Sandra's spoken at, I don't know how many chamber breaks about the study, Kiwanis and Rotary. We're here tonight with you all pretty early on in the study. nuclear-ready resolutions passed by, I'm going to try to go off memory, McCracken County, Ballard County, the city of Paducah, PACRO, GPED, and the chamber. I think I got them.
Yep.
And then Joel Bradburn recently came down and spoke to PACRO at a meeting too. So a lot of community outreach occurring, all with the message that's loud and clear about reindustrialization. So I'm going to briefly dive into these areas. I won't spend a lot of time. I'm just going to give you guys an update. You can read the slides and let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them. But land transfer at the Paducah site is a layered approach. I mentioned earlier that Paducah is unique in the fact that it's a surplus site designation, meaning the DOE, EPA, the state of Kentucky will concur on any land that is transferred at the site. This is similar to Oak Ridge, a little bit different than Forks. All in the same effort. It's just a matter of the review, and I think it's a good thing in place. For this land will be one of the most researched piece of properties in the Paducah area before it comes back to the community for industrialization. A lot of discussion and work went into determining the first area to request the transfer. This was through coordination with GPED and their economic development interests and PACRO. And one of those things was PACRO elected to move land transfer assets to IDA because IDA holds all the land in Paducah for economic development purposes. So little things like that that are unique to Paducah that make this approach custom for our efforts in the future. And things that were considered whenever we approached the first area was infrastructure access, residential proximity, existing site features, and so forth. So looking at this slide, the slide on the picture on the right showing all the colors, the yellow and blue area is where we have centered the first land transfer request. So the community decided to leave that open-ended. We're requesting 250 acres based on some potential economic development interests that we've heard that's about the size that, or research, that's about the size that they would need. We're flexible on the fact that it can be yellow, blue, and we're trying to leave that open for DOE based on their due diligence and their findings so that they can customize that first parcel that best fits the community and their needs. So the east side of the plant is where we've really focused that first land transfer request, and we'll focus future land transfer requests as well. Later on would eventually be the red and potentially the pink, and in the purple area is the active former operation. So that's where cleanup's occurring. That would be last. So on the left is the ownership map. The orange is owned by DOE and licensed to wildlife. So the area that is requested is in the orange area. The light green is owned by wildlife and managed by wildlife. And then the dark green area is owned and operated by DOE. The infrastructure evaluation, the goal of the study is to really focus in on developing a conceptual master plan of infrastructure needs, but simply. So what does JSA need? What does Paducah Water need? Our power looks really good out there, but who services it once it becomes a community asset, not a federal asset? I think that's a question that we're asking right now. Which one of those power companies has an interest in nuclear energy? Because that's potentially a target for us to bring to the area. So all of those are questions that are centering around infrastructure evaluation. And this is in coordination with the other economic development sites that GPED currently hosts and with the Department of Energy. And then looking at economic development, this is really the biggest topic. So we have, I think it all goes down to optimization, really. You know, Portsmouth has followed so far a closed loop energy model where they're creating an energy ecosystem that is maybe one company comes in and has a byproduct, another company can come in and capture that byproduct, and that is what their user is. So they're creating a clean energy ecosystem. Oak Ridge, in comparison, has taken a broader look where they do have clean energy, and those clean energy technologies have access to DOE funding. So that's an important mechanism for anybody that would be using this land. But Oak Ridge is also considered broader alternatives, medical isotopes company, that type of thing, and they're almost finished with their reindustrialization. So whenever we look at Paducah, we know it needs to be unique to what Paducah community wants. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's all clean energy and nuclear technology that would go on the site for reindustrialization. We think it could be broader. I like to think that it would be a marriage of the two, from what we're seeing at Portsmouth and what we're seeing at Oak Ridge. And, luckily they went before us, so we have lessons learned and things to capture from there. And then workforce development, this element is going to partner with the University of Kentucky and Murray State University, who now both hold DOE grants as well. And really look into, as I mentioned earlier, what does the future workforce need, both for the future cleanup mission of the site and reindustrialization that can occur concurrently. So think about that a little bit. Cleanup jobs are a big number for us in the community. As they continue to grow and we bring in reindustrialization, that's a lot of jobs in less than a quarter-mile radius. So how do we plan the workforce and get them ready to where they're nuclear receptive, and not just nuclear, but technically trained to current technology? So community engagement. We had a big discussion on this yesterday, really just beginning. I think we'll seek your input on this once we have some ideas laid out. But community engagement is one of the most important principles of any reindustrialization. Forts, for example, has branded Forts Future, and you can go to fortsfuture.com. You can see all their work that's completed on reindustrialization and the efforts that they've completed to date. Oak Ridge has a website. They're also on the Department of Energy website. I think it's really important that the message gets out loud and clear that this site has a future that we as the community want to be responsible for in coordination with DOE. And we're actively developing those outreach strategies, looking at what do we want to call the site? What is the park name? How do we brand that and get that message out? And what does that website look like? We want to preserve the heritage and the legacy of what allowed us this opportunity in the first place, while also creating a message for the future. So we've established several working groups that are working in each of these areas. We have the steering committee and infrastructure evaluation, economic and workforce development, land transfer, site strategy, and communications. We'll click through these pretty quick and go over the objective, but the steering group is really that collaboration arm. They all have exposure to each of those areas, the members on here, so it's time to sit down and say, okay, what is everybody seeing and hearing, and how do we implement that across the board? The infrastructure evaluation group is made up of all of our public utilities. I like to think that this is the fun one. I have to drink coffee before we get going because we have a lot of ideas and a lot of potential here. And all of our utilities, FRMP is represented with Andy Anderson, who has great knowledge of the interior of the site and the plant operations as they are today. We have all energy companies represented, natural gas, JPEC, TVA. We have McCracken County, which the land resides in, Steve Doolittle, and several others that are involved in this effort. And this is probably the biggest lift on the conceptual master plan if we get it done right. I'm hoping that we have a low-end idea, because a lot of the clean energy users aren't experiencing a high utility demand, but we also have what if manufacturing comes here and we need to supply them. So finding some scenarios and being able to put some cost down to that so that we can adequately plan for what the infrastructure need is there. All utilities are at the site. Public water is nearby. JSA is a little bit further off. To just simply extend public water, for example, would be a little bit short-sighted for us, but could be possible depending on what that demand is. So that's what this group is working on. Economic and workforce development. We are actively reaching out to all the relationships that we've recently made in the past couple of months. And the workforce group has Ashley Burns, West Kentucky, Marianne Medlock, who several in here know, I'm sure, to work on what are those workforce. The land transfer group just completed, so this is a good example. The letter that went out yesterday was being live typed in this group at 8 a.m. It was also signed in this group right before the press release went out. So it was a really fun moment for us yesterday. We got to just sit there and work together and put the first land transfer request out. So that'll be a memory that I know I will keep. And then the site strategy group is almost together with communications, a little bit different. Site strategies working on the branding. What are those ideas? We expect to have some logo type alternatives, some vision there. And then the next one, the communications group, is really working on How do we get the website out? How do we increase public awareness? We don't just want to launch a website. How do we get it out to the public in a positive and futuristic way? So that's what that group is working on. This is just whenever all of them meet. And then really the desired outcome, in closing, the goal of the study is to produce a tangible, deliverable that can be used long-term that defines the guiding principles of reindustrialization. So in my daily life, I work on a lot of master plans, and the last thing that I ever want is for something to sit on the shelf. So we want to make sure that this plan is usable for long-term, that it's adaptable, and that it allows flexibility for the site to grow, most importantly. And a lot of your community is involved in this effort, including boards such as you all. And that's extremely important because at the end of the day, whenever this is complete, it needs to be everybody's study. That's all I have.
And we're happy to answer any questions.
Sure. Anybody have any questions for either Sandra or Megan?
I have a question. Whenever you're reopening all this, I know we actually just went to a nuclear facility yesterday. Something that they didn't really predict when they were originally building it was some of the new laws when it comes to wildlife. They had to spend an extra $14 million on preventing fish deaths. Is there any sort of, I guess, like wildlife damage or anything that we need to account for or look into or anything?
I would say not right now. I think that so whenever we were at the ECA conference last week, we heard from 10 industry leaders in the nuclear space. A lot of that discussion centered around probably what you're talking about, the changes that are occurring at the nuclear regulatory level. And if anybody can do, you can help address that. But that is your regulatory commission that is overseeing all this clean energy technology and really nuclear coming on in the United States. So there's a lot of regulations in place. I think a big point of that conversation was also the waste and how to handle that and I think it's a good time to be asking that question. They're out early, nuclear technology really coming on mainline. I think the earliest we heard was 1 in 2026, but think 2030s for what. And so being able to handle that waste is an important conversation too. I do think that they are well versed in the responsibility of that technology, and that if the NRC permits it, then it's probably closely monitored and regulated to where I don't think you'll have those issues.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, good question, Reese. Any others?
Can I just say something?
Yeah, Fran.
It's not a question, but I want to compliment you guys. This is awesome. You've done a fantastic job as usual.
Thank you. We appreciate that. We've followed in your footsteps. For many years you were there, so thank you. And we are very appreciative of the opportunity that the Department of Energy has given to this community, and we're very honored to have been chosen to lead that effort. And so we want to make you proud. We want to work with the community to make sure that we have a great plan in place for the site. But thank you. We'd be happy to come back at any time. Maybe later this year or definitely in early 2025 to give you an update as we get ready to wrap up. At any time, if you have any input or if you have any questions, you know where to find me, you know where to find Megan, please reach out to us. We're happy to listen and take your suggestions and put them into place whenever we can, because it's a big undertaking, and we're very thrilled and looking forward to continue to work with all of you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Enjoy the game.
Thank you. If you're on my Facebook, you'll be able to see it later.
She's the one in the back staying jelly.
The umpires?
No, never. We'll want to win. We'll want to win.
I guess I did think of a mistake. When we were at the steering meeting, one of the conversations at the port side, whether this reindustrialization starts to happen, or is there a concern of the contractors trying to do the remediation at the plant, losing part of their workforce? And so I guess maybe that's a question for some of our contractors here as we start thinking. I mean, obviously, that's going to wrap up at some point. And our hope is, I think I won't speak for everybody, but I think a good portion of the community's hope is to see reindustrialization out there. But is that a part of the conversation on the workforce piece about that concern?
Yes.
Maybe
Yeah, well, growing the workforce, growing our own population, because there will be opportunities for more jobs at the site through what the work that they're doing and through the projects that we hope that will be coming here at some point. So I think we should look at it as an opportunity for more jobs.
And I don't want to misquote Mary Ann Medlock, but she happened to say it yesterday. And she's so passionate about workforce in our area. And she'll tell you that the people are there because of the catchment area of Paducah. So while our population's, one thing, the people coming into the area are between 200 and 300,000, I think is the number that last presentation I saw hers. But her point is that people are here. People are coming. But it is a conversation that the study is having. We anticipate additional jobs in time at the site. And so for the cleanup mission, especially, if we tend to mimic more of the port operations in time, that will require more jobs, increase in funding to a lot of things. But reindustrialization occurring alongside those numbers is really where the workforce group is focused, because marrying it with what is there right now is going to miss the number a little bit. So yes, very much looking into that. Mary Ann has so many ideas.
There could be crossover. I mean,
Yes.
in reality, we're looking jobs if there are new companies that coming in. But we hope in my other job that the population will grow in our area to fill all of those jobs. Jobs is what it's all about, really.
Absolutely, and just to add, like for the mission, and we have 3 sister sites, the one in Oak Ridge, the one at Portsmouth, and the one at Paducah. We're the last of the 3 GEPs. We have a lot of employees that are trained that are in Oak Ridge and are in Portsmouth, that as our mission starts growing, they can start moving here. So the net effect is going to be more people in the community, and that's what everybody wants. So I think that will be really good.
I think Portsmouth is at double where they're at currently versus where we are. So just even the DOE mission's going to eventually ramp up and need additional people to support that once we start getting going and get our decision documents in place. And so that's and then this coming along with it. So I think, like Megan mentioned, it's going to be positive for, jobs overall.
We have an 8th grade program called Launch where they can go and see all of the different careers in the area, and Department of Energy has, all of the contractors have a big presence there to educate them. We just last year added an educator externship program where we bring in teachers and take them to the DOE site so that they can be talking to their students about it. I see a lot of need to ramp up some of those programs because people want to stay here, our own people, and there will be job opportunities for them. So we want them to know about us.
it's a good problem.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good to see you. Thank you.
Both of those programs are working. Last year, FRMP internship, we had one labor intern in the USW side, and then this year I think we've got 4. So it's the word's starting to get out, and we're getting more applications for interns in those kind of USW fields.
And I think the concern in Portsmouth is that their cleanup window and their reindustrialization window are both right on top of each other. Like that, and that's great. Where we have a little longer timeline, and that ramp up allows us the opportunity for growth and controlled and effective growth. Not like, I think the concern in Portsmouth is if I've got 5 years left of D&D work and a new plant is coming, depending on where I'm in my career, where the folks going to go. Now all of a sudden you're having to train new folks, and they're concerned about that because that overlap is so tight right now in Portsmouth that I think in Paducah, we're at a spot where we can plan around that and make accommodations there for them. So.
That's a big part of the study's workforce. Actually, in the grant request, it said workforce needs now and for the future, because we really need to be identifying them now. I can take any non-technical questions, but I don't know. She could leave. Go ahead and leave. But thank you all again for letting us know.
Thank you, Sandra. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm happy to stay if you have anything else.
Perfect. Thank you, ma'am.
Jumping back into our agenda then, appreciate you letting us make that jump to get the program. So they might be excused, go back up, we'll go to DOE comments. April?
So just some project updates. Last week, we completed 1 million pound ship for the fiscal year 24. We're at 64% complete total overall. We're of R114 and Freon. And then we're on track to meet our EM1 calendar year goal of the 1 million pounds ahead of schedule. So that continues to progress and is going well. As far as segmentation, we've currently segmented 36 converters, and we have 33 bundles in storage. We've demoed 7 of the 13 planned facilities for this fiscal year so far. So progress continues there. And then just recently, this week, they finished 746A, which is on the northwest side up there. So that whole area is now gravel. Yes, right there. So that whole block is all gone, and geotextile laid down and gravel put on top. So that's all I have. Buzz, you got any additional project items?
No, I guess got the security buildings are coming along, right?
Yeah, we just got the one left. It should be done by mid-June.
Hello.
The training facility.
How's our water tower?
Still on schedule for May 31st.
It's funny because that outfit, they got pulled away to that bridge in Baltimore that transport hit. They were pulled away from our project to go do that job, and they did that successfully. So we delayed our project to support that. So they're coming on site next week to start their work. So it's exciting.
What does that process entail for that? Is that?
They'll take, that tower has 6 legs, and they'll notch out the front legs to weaken them, and then they'll put a charge on the front legs, which will cut through them, but they'll also put a charge on the back legs, which is designed to push them up off the bolts. They'll take the bolts off. So between that fall and then the other charge to lift the other legs off will cause it to tip. And supposedly, they have a pretty good, there's a range of where it could fall. And so they're pretty confident, but we do have a minor structure on the corner that it could potentially hit that minor structure, but that's just part of it. It's.
Is it going to be recorded at all?
Huh?
Is it
Oh yeah, we're going to have a lot of. Yeah, we will definitely have video of that.
We should be able to, isn't June project updates? So hopefully we'll have that video in June.
But we're not making a big deal out of it because we don't want people coming there. The plan will be, for all intents and purposes, there won't be anyone there that Friday. Just keep all that, you just don't want any risk. And we just don't want public coming out there. So it'll simplify the job of bringing it down.
Any other questions for either Buzz or April? Any of our liaisons with us tonight? Any comments?
Yeah, I don't have any for EPA. Thank you.
I'm not hearing any. Okay, moving on. We'll talk about the.
Well, what if before we get there, Don, Fran, and Clint attended the National Chairs Meeting representing the Paducah Board a couple weeks ago. Any thoughts, feedback, overview from you guys for the benefit of the group on that meeting you attended?
I will first just thank the board for allowing me to represent you there. It's always an honor to sit at the table. If you work with people from across the country who are in part of the whole EM program, But until you get together with these other people, you don't realize how similar your program is or how unique your program is to the others. Some of the things that we do, others look aghast that you do that? How do you do that? And I thought, we just do it. That's no problem. So we're blessed in many ways that way to be able to do that. But it's an opportunity to sit around the table with people and just discuss common interest in a very positive, this year I thought was a very positive tone throughout the whole meeting. The tour to me was eye-opening because part of the whole week, part of it as far as this tour that had gone up to see Bernal, former processing plant that's now been cleaned up, and see it. You go to Portsmouth and see where they are in their process, see their on-site waste disposal cells, and then you picture Paducah where it is now. So you get to see all stages of that cleanup. And I think that's important to see those various things and to hear the steps that they went through. So that was eye-opening to me as well. But I'll let Fran and Clint talk about their impressions.
I think when Sandra and Megan were talking and they referred to Portsmouth, all of that, we could understand because we had been there. And the things that really stood out to me were the cells and how they're monitored and how they're built as safely as possibly can. If they're not just going to be sitting there and nobody cares whether they're there or not, they are continually monitored and for any leakage or anything. So I think the safety part of it was something that people need to understand, that they're just not going to leave it sitting there and that's it. But I think hearing, as Don said, hearing what other sites are doing or where we're like, it was different and different ways of doing it. And everyone there was just lovely. They were great to talk to and we enjoyed visiting with them and getting to know them. And I'm going to be rotating off in October, so I won't be able to in the future, in the years come, to be able to visit with these people, but it was interesting, and I enjoyed being at Portsmouth because we've heard a lot about it. It's kind of our sister site, and I look forward to Oak Ridge, but there's a lot of other things we wish we could share, everything that we can.
I would just say, kind of dovetails with the presentation tonight to see a site that in some ways looks very similar to ours, but further along in the process, and to hear from their equivalent of PACRO and the process that they've gone through with their reindustrialization and the conversations from the community and actually getting to hear from their community in that meeting some of their thoughts about the site and concerns and whatnot. But I think it was interesting because it almost was like being able to see a little bit to the future compared to where we are today. And I think that for me, because our timeline is so far out, it was a little bit exciting to get to see what cleanup can look like and will be like, and the options, at least for our community. I think, of course, I think reindustrialization makes a lot of sense, but even the Bernal piece of it, seeing what a different viewpoint from a different community look like, and just knowing that our area has those options, and that now we're able to kind of start thinking about them and looking at this what's next. So it was neat experience.
All right, any thoughts or questions from you guys for? I can, since we've mentioned the water tower and as a focal point of the virtual museum posters that we had, that Buzz had brought over, we took 25 of those rather large posters to Portsmouth, and all 25 went home with other folks, different sites. They scarfed them up. So Yeah, it's pretty great that they wanted a piece of memorabilia from Paducah, and so they grabbed onto those. So one of the things we did do at the chairs meeting was we worked on a recommendation that passed the group and then has been brought back to you, and it is on the green sheet of paper. As a national recommendation, we don't really get the opportunity to edit or change things because all boards are simultaneously voting on it once. So we get a kind of a thumbs up, thumbs down vote. In order to pass, I need 8 yays, which is a majority of the board. Whenever we get to the point, if you guys decide to vote on this, Reese, Ben, we'll ask for you guys to vote out loud since you're on Teams to make sure that we get that vote recorded. Other than that, so brief overview of the recommendation. Kelly Snyder, who is the DFO, she is the federal officer in charge of all 8 boards across the country. She appoints a deputy designated federal officer. In our case, it's April, who oversees the local boards, but she oversees all 8 together. She mentioned in her comments that one of the things that she has seen her group face is that the EMSSAB website, folks that manage the websites would like to put less information on them and keep it more of a news site as opposed to a document repository. So that if you were looking for past meeting minutes, recommendations, presentations, you would have to go somewhere else and find it. And I believe typically what they were recommending is that you would have to put somebody's name on it. So for Paducah, you would have to contact Buzz and he would have to track it down and find it for you, right? Keeping it a little, right? It was just seen as the best practice from the IT folks. And so she brought that up, and the chairs felt, Don, Fran, Clint, you guys felt fairly strongly that that was not the right decision, that public information should be kept accessible and should be kept made available in an easy format. And so this recommendation came out of it. Don, Fran, Clint, you guys want to take it from there?
I had to laugh, though, at when Megan was talking about the document they were creating was live typed.
Yes.
Because this document was also very much live typed and created in the room. Usually, with recommendations, we see a recommendation first and then we tweak it. This, we just wrote it out loud.
Isn't that Julie Galloway the best?
I know. All she could do to keep up. I'm sure she was having words stuff underneath her drive too, to be able to do that. But the process worked well. Because otherwise, I see, I worked on a different recommendation that's not a part of any of this, but the idea that we create so much, and if we're not careful, those of you who are Indiana Jones fans and Raiders of the Lost Ark, you know what happened to the Ark. It's in storage, and that's what can happen with documents as well, very easily lost forever. And people did not want to lose these documents. Now you say, well, I've never gone and researched the minutes. Just because you have it doesn't mean somebody else hasn't. Because when it was asked, how many of you have looked at, and 3 or 4 hands went up. So people do go back and look to say what's going on in the past, see what our history has been. And so that's why it was important that as we pulled all these pieces together to make the recommendation. So as you can see here, the justification about why we wanted to do this, and then the recommendation itself. And then the final piece, of course, that goes on each of these recommendations is just who are we? And we as the Citizens Advisory Board, as a part of EM, that. So I'm going to not read the recommendation to you. You can read that yourself. But I would encourage you to vote positively, and I'm not campaigning for anybody.
So, I guess, Fran, Clint, anything you guys want to add to?
I do want to bring up that Kelly did give us an update on all recommendations that we have passed to let us know which ones are accepted, which ones are partially accepted. So they are looking at them, but they're taking them seriously. So we're not just doing this as an exercise. So, and this, by the way, when they were talking about it, this was done and projected on a screen, and the young lady that was the wonderful lady that was sitting there typing very hard to keep up with us.
Did Julie hear that right now?
No, she can hear it, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, it was done great, and it was a big group. It was not just a couple doing it. It was the whole, all the chairs and vice chairs and members. So they did an excellent job. But anyway, I wanted everybody to know she was okay.
I would just say that, you know, in my viewpoint, the spirit of this board is to be a voice for the community, and obviously we can only have so many folks on there, and to take it off the website, I think would kind of close the door a little bit. And although I don't think they get a ton of clicks, I think it's important that it's there for transparency purposes for folks to be able to voice, and so that's why I would also not directly campaign, but advocate for yes.
I would also advocate.
Nice. Hey, I want to add that this particular recommendation was meant as a bit of a stopgap. Kelly anticipated that headquarters was wanting to make changes to the website within the month, and so this was meant to kind of be a sounding voice, just a stop work action, to still a phrase from Myrna's world, right? To say, hey, hang on, let's make sure this is the right call. With the idea that when we got together again in September in Oak Ridge as a group of chairs, we would know more and look at more of a formal plan to how to structure and maintain that. And as we got into the recommendation, one of the challenges we had is that in the IT world, words have very peculiar meanings, right? So they didn't want to say database because that meant something in particular. Didn't want to say like document catalog because that meant something like, and so it was beyond like us to find the right word. But what we wanted to do is create some type of system where you could log on and Buzz could search for any number of key topics or dates or sites, and it would relate back to the recommendations that had been submitted. So you would get a smaller, we live in the world of Google. We're used to typing in a couple words and getting exactly what we want. So that's kind of what we're looking for here, and finding out a way to sort and manage lots of data to make it more useful for us. So this was not intended to do that, but this was to prevent us from going down a road that we might not be able to back down from. So with that, any other thoughts, questions before we look for a motion to vote and then go forward? Yes.
So moved.
Oh, good deal. Got a second. All right. So Don, you want to?
Yep. Okay, let me go around the room and
if you'll make sure we handle the two online.
handle the two online.
Yes, sir.
We'll start. Ben, are you in favor?
Yes, sorry, couldn't get my mic off there.
What about the junior CAB members? Are they in favor?
Yeah, they are in the back room. I'm in my office now, so we're
perfect.
good.
And you said Reese is out there?
Yes, Reese as well.
Reese?
If you ever see the
Reese, are you there?
Oh, he was.
Yeah, I am. I'm cutting in and out.
Are you in favor of adopting the recommendation?
Yes.
Thank you. Blake Combs?
Aye.
Myron?
Aye.
Galen?
Aye.
Kay?
Aye.
Fran? Billy Bob?
Aye.
Don? Yes. Hearing all yeses, motion does pass.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. And what we'll do is we'll submit Don's signature to headquarters, and they will add it. If you see on the back of the formatting, it will have Don's signature as chair of the board and added to this. And then we'll go forward. Thank you for that in the discussion.
Moving on, were there any public comments that needed to be added today?
I'm not aware of it.
Okay. Anyone have any final comments for tonight?
Next month, we'll have the meeting will consist of an update. It's been a while since we've done a comprehensive update on things been going on at the site the last several months, so we'll do that with the goal of, in July, coming back and doing a site tour to show you what we talked about, so you put eyes on it. So it's going to be a really exciting next 2 meetings, so looking forward to it.
Any other comments by anyone, board members? I want to get and thank each and every one of you for giving your time tonight to hear the presentation of the meeting, because I know how valuable time is. And so thank you very much.
Just as a heads up also, since you mentioned the June meeting, Zach is bringing the ETOS summer interns. It is on their calendar of must-do events, so please we'll bring on the Six interns will be with us in June, so.
Well, thank you.
Plan dinner accordingly. All right, so.
Any other comments? Hearing no other comments, officially call this meeting finished for the night.